Hello and welcome everybody for a webinar on gametogenesis. At the outset, let me say good morning to all of you and good morning to all the officials of MUHS who have been working all throughout the time to organize such a grand webinar on different subjects. This is a webinar, and you all know that we are going to study gametogenesis virtually. So I welcome you all to my virtual classroom. The topic of my choice for MUHS live lecture series is, of course, gametogenesis. My dear students, this topic in itself is a very basic topic as far as human anatomy is concerned. On the contrary, it is more related to human life, because the life begins with a single cell stage called as zygote. And prior to the happening of zygote, there is some story behind that story we are going to study through this program, and that is gametogenesis. My dear students, I'm very happy today because I have completed the 30 years of my noble teaching profession. I am teaching human anatomy for the last 30 years since the year 1991, and today is the day when I joined as a demonstrator in human anatomy subject at Kolhapur. And I'm very happy that I got a chance to present my webinar through MUH's live lecture series today itself. So it becomes a great responsibility on me to see that you learn something good, better today through this webinar. And finally, let's begin our today's topic. You all know that gametogenesis is a very important topic as far as the examination is also concerned. Before we begin with what is gametogenesis, let me tell you that for BHMS course in first BHMS examination, university examination, you have got two papers, paper 1 and paper 2. The paper 1 includes, the general anatomy as well as the what you call embryology, including cytology, cytokinesis, and so on. That means paper 1 has got, more syllabus as compared to paper 2, because apart from general anatomy, embryology, and what you call cytology and genetics, and apart from this, there is a syllabus on head, face, neck, brain, and upper limb. So usually students, they study more on upper limb and very little on head, face, neck, brain, but nobody actually gives much importance to the general anatomy and embryology. So actually this topic is related to both general anatomy as well as embryology. So more you can say the basic embryology or gross embryology, which is required for your level. So let us begin our today's topic, gametogenesis. Let me know at the outset what is gametogenesis from your side. And here, you can't have that much of interaction, but keep your answers ready in your mind. Every answer will be coming here automatically on the screen. Please keep your attention on the screen. So what is gametogenesis? Gametogenesis is a process of formation of gametes. That means gametes are made by a process called as gametogenesis. The gametogenesis is in two, types, because there are human being is a bisexual animal. So there is a male and there is a female. So we have got two types of gametogenesis. One is spermatogenesis and the other is oogenesis. And my dear students, in these sessions paper 2 or 3 days back, in paper 1 there was a short note on spermatogenesis. So let me clear one thing, that today's topic is very very useful for exam hall. Lot of our chance to go through this topic. So let me begin with what is gametogenesis. presentation. Female and male gametes are made in the testes. Okay, so female gametes are ova and male gametes are spermatozoa. This basic you all know because you have studied during school days, even during the junior college days. In human body, there are gonads. Okay, so gonads are actually sexual glands. So there are male gonads and there are female gonads. Male gonads are testes, you know, those, and even in female there are ovaries. So these male and female gametes are formed in the gonads. Okay, nowhere else. Gametogenesis involves a special type of cell division, and that is called as meiosis. So cytokinesis study tells us about two types of cell divisions. One is mitosis and the other is meiosis. So for the purpose of gametogenesis, we require meiosis at any cost, because meiosis is required to make the diploid number into haploid number. That means cell has to, you know, divide it into two half numbers as far as the chromosomes are concerned, and that is possible only in the gonads. That means meiosis takes place only in the gonads, nowhere else in the body. Whereas mitosis takes place all throughout the body, because cell division is required for the body for the purpose of, you know, growth. And mitosis also takes place in gonads, but for the purpose of having haploid number, we require meiosis also. Okay, and cell division means cytokinesis. You know that cytology, cytokinesis is, you know, the basic for study of gametogenesis. I hope that you all know that. In meiosis, the number of chromosomes is halved. Okay, half. Okay, 2. So it called as half. So that when gametes unite in fertilization, they have the correct number of chromosomes. That means half from the male and half from the female, when they unite together, they form one cell, and that one cell stage, single cell stage of a life is called as a zygote, where you get total 46 chromosomes. In order to arrive at the total 46 chromosomes which are required for the human being species, there is a provision of this haploid numbers. Okay, human gametes have only 23 chromosomes. Okay, and are called haploid cells. So the haploid cells are only the gametes, and they are present only in the gonads, nowhere else in the body. While the normal human cells all throughout the body have got 46 chromosomes, and they are called as diploid cells. Okay, so in males, meiosis produces 4 gametes, because the outcome of the meiosis, especially the second meiotic division, is 4 gametes, whereas in females it produces only 1 gamete. Even though there is a meiosis giving rise to, you know, 4 cells, 3 of them become polar bodies, so only 1 cell you get, and that 1 cell is called as ovum. Whereas in meiosis, in males we get 4 gametes, and the 4 gametes are called as spermatozoa. A single is called as spermatozoon. So don't forget all this, you know, pronunciation and the spellings. This is not a time to, you know, forget all that. Try to be more precise on, you know, every point. The gametes then undergo a period of maturation. So when they are formed, when the gametes are formed, they have to become mature enough for the purpose of fertilization. So in males, this maturation occurs in the epididymis. So epididymis is a structure, you know, in the scrotum outside the testicle. Okay, it's a coil-like tube where it's quite long. So it takes a lot of time for all these spermatozoa to get mature. So in females, this occurs in the follicle of the ovary. So ovary has got ovarian follicles, and ovarian follicles are also called as Graafian follicles. And there they get mature up till the time of ovulation. When ovulation means shedding of the ovum from the ovarian follicles. And the uterine tube also serves for the purpose of maturation of ovum for some time after the ovulation. And naturally, when the ovum comes in the uterine tube for some time, it waits for the fertilization. Otherwise, it is shedded off through menstruation. This whole story must have been taught to you many times in your school days and during your school. But we are trying to study a little more than what you have studied so far. But I'll take you through this program step by step, step by step. So I wanted to, be more precise on the basic part of gametogenesis first. So I waited here for the long time on this slide, and I request students who are carrying Android, cell phones to take screenshots of some important slides which you think are important for you to refer in future, especially during your exam times. It may help you a lot. Well, now, by this time you are fully aware now what is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis means the procession of formation of gametes. But what this gamete word actually means, where this word has come from? Gamete is derived from a Greek word called as gamin, and this gamin means to marry in English. Marry means lagna. So see how these words are derived. So these words carry very simple meanings, because most of the nomenclature in anatomy is derived from either Latin language or from Greek language. So we are not, Latin and Greek people, we are Indian people. So we find this something different. But if you go to the breakdown details of each word, it becomes so simple. And here the marry word in English, or lagna or shadi in Hindi, that is related to this word gamin. And why they have used this word gamin? Because this gamete is going to unite with other gamete. So there's some sort of union, and marriage or marrying is also some sort of union. So that is why this word comes from Greek language. Gametes develop in the gonads. So gonads are sexual glands, okay? And they are primary sexual glands. Since birth, they are present in both males and females. They get mature as per the course of time, but they become very active at the time of puberty and thereafter. So these gonads are testes in males and ovaries in females. Those are called as sexual glands. Okay, they are both endocrine and exocrine also, because they secrete some hormones also. Okay, testosterone, estrogen especially, and progesterone in even extra hormone for the purpose of maintenance of pregnancy. So these all physiology also you should know side by side with the anatomy. So in males, it is spermatogenesis. So gametogenesis in males is spermatogenesis, required for the formation of spermatozoa in the testis. Now, please pay your attention on this word testis. It is TES. That means two. And if it is TES, it becomes one. So there is a little difference between singular and plural. Some of the, most of the students, not some of the, most of the students, they do not give, attention to the spellings and grammar. I have seen all that through while examining the paper in after university exams. But my sincere request to all of you to remember the small things which are very essential. The meaning of word testis, TES is two testes. In females, it is oogenesis, and oogenesis means formation of ova, and formation of ova takes place in female gonads, and female gonads are ovaries, and there are two of them. Okay, right and left. Oogenesis and spermatogenesis we'll study step by step, but for the instant what you call study, those schematic representations of diagrammatic representations of spermatogenesis and oogenesis shown here on the right side. From that, you just go to the bottom part of that image. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 spermatozoa are formed, whereas in oogenesis only one ovum is formed, whereas you can see those three polar bodies. Okay, right from the spermatogonium, which is a stem cell, to the spermatozoa, which is the gamete. So in oogenesis, it is oogonium, and then ovum. Ovum is a gamete, female gamete. Okay. Well, after looking at this image, you must have got some point that this is a joke, joke on gametogenesis, because gametes are required later for the purpose of marriage. Marriage, I mean to say marriage in the gametes. The gamine word, that means union. So there has to be union, means that is fertilization. So this image is for the fertilization. You can see that there is only one ovum here, and there are numerous spermatozoa here. Okay, the nature has given this chance for this spermatozoa to get only one ovum. So in order to have an individual, distinct individual who is totally different from the present human beings, for that purpose there is a lot of variation in the nature. For that purpose this arrangement has been done by the nature as far as the fertilization is concerned. And here you can see all these spermatozoa, they are talking amongst themselves, are we there at, means they ask each other, आपण तिथे पोचलो का. So where exactly they wanted to reach, they want to reach is ovum. That means whosoever reach the ovum first, actually as far as the race is concerned, but it is not the first, it is all variation in the nature, but only one will get entry and others will not get into that. And that union of male and female gametes is called as fertilization. And after fertilization you get a fertilized ovum, and when fertilized ovum, the both the pronuclei they unite to form one nucleus, that is called as zygote single cell stage. And that is what is called as single cell stage of human life. And that proves that human beings were once upon a time uh, what you call unicellular organisms. So we were all once upon a time and unicellular organisms, and then we got so many cells and we became multicellular organism later on. So this one proof as far as the evolution of human beings is concerned. Just don't study for the sake of study. Try to have some historical aspect of the topic which is related to topic, even philosophy behind that, everything you have to understand. Just don't go for the doing topic by heart. Well, by this time it is clear that we are going to study spermatogenesis and oogenesis, and you all know that spermatogenesis it happens in males and oogenesis happens in females. Now here you can see that we are now going to deal with spermatogenesis a little bit in a deeper sense. A simple diagram is placed here in front of you, where you can see ultimately 4 spermatozoa, and before spermatozoa you can see the only 2 of them, and above you can see 1. So here broadly you can call this as a spermatogonium, or you can call it as a secondary spermatocyte. This is secondary spermatocytes, and these are the spermatids. Spermatogenesis means production of spermatozoa in the testis. One cell is spermatozoon. Okay. Now this spermatozoon, it is head double ON. So this makes you understand that it has got a tail and it has to move swiftly. It is motile and it has to move. So there is this suffix has been added here. Spermatozoon. In process of spermatogenesis, there is a production of 4 spermatozoa from one stem cell. So the stem cell in spermatogenesis is spermatogonium. Okay, in the gonads, in the seminiferous tubules which are present in the testis. So one spermatogonium will give rise to 4 spermatozoa, and that happens by cell division method. One special type of cell division, that is called as meiosis. So meiosis is responsible for giving us 4 cells from 1. Mitosis will give you 2 simple cells from 1. So this is a difference, basic difference. In mitosis there is no reduction in the chromosome number, but in meiosis there is a reduction in chromosome number. So in mitosis we will not get half number, but in meiosis we will get half number. So meiosis is required at any cost for the purpose of getting haploid number. Well, by this time it is quite clear that spermatogenesis occurs in testis. TES means a single testis. Meiosis occurs and the result is 4 non-identical cells, each with 23 chromosomes, that will develop into spermatozoa. So they are non-identical to each other. Now if you see through this image, you can see that spermatogonium where duplication of chromosomes is taking place. Okay. After the spermatogenesis begins, then pairing of homologs is happening to form tetrads. Okay, they call it tetrads. And after pairing, first meiotic division takes place. In the first meiotic division, there is actually reduction, replication, what we call, into diploid into haploid number. But here we get only 2 now. Now this one has got 46 chromosome and these two have got now 23 each. But there is further second meiotic division. Here you can see second meiotic division. Separation of chromatids takes place here. Okay. A separation of homologous has taken place in first meiotic division, but in second meiotic division, separation of chromatids has taken place. Here, this is second meiotic division is somewhat similar to mitotic division, because the number 23 will give 223. Okay, like in the first case 46 gives 246, so that is mitosis. Similarly, the second meiotic division is just like mitotic division, and finally we get 4 haploid cells which we call as spermatozoa. Now what is meiosis? In your paper, I remember that there are questions posed on even meiosis. There is a short note on meiosis. There is a short note on mitosis. There can be a short note on cytokinesis. For MCQs. Now, I think for your batch, there are MCQs. In short answer questions, what we call SAQs, there were questions on mitosis, meiosis. So, mitosis and meiosis is compulsory for you to understand, as well as to understand for the purpose of study as well as for the purpose of examination. A division of the nucleus that reduces chromosome number by half. Now our number, human being number, is 46 in each cell. All nucleated cells have got 46 chromosomes. That is divided into half, so we get 23, and it is very important for sexual reproduction. Okay, and it involves combining the genetic information of one parent with that of the other parent to produce a genetically distinct individual. So there is no individual alike in the world, so one person will never match with the other person in the whole world. Okay, and through this graphic, you can see the cytokinesis. You can see how the replication takes place and how we get two different cells. Just small graphic GIF. Well, there are two phases of meiosis. Okay, a diploid cell replicates its chromosomes. Diploid becomes haploid in 2 stages of meiosis. In first stage, so there are 2 stages. Means first is first meiotic division and second meiotic division. So only one replication occurs during meiosis 1. So replication means reduction, or say division from diploid to haploid cell. It happens during first meiotic division, and during second meiotic division there is similar stage like mitotic division. Okay, so here you can see the meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So homologous chromosomes 2n getting into 1n each, and daughter cell as a daughter nuclei, you can see the 46 has become 23, and this 23 have further become 23 itself, like just like mitotic division. So altogether 4 nuclei we get in meiosis. Okay, now what is chromosome pairing? Chromosome pairing, because we require homologous pair. If there are 46 chromosomes, so 46 half is 23. That means there are in each 46 number cell there is a pairing, 23 pairs. Each chromosome is in pair and are identical to each other. Okay, and they carry genes for the same trait. Only one pair differs, and that is sex chromosome pair. That means in case of female we have got XX, so the one pair XX, and in males we have got XY, so that is differ here. Even if in males there is X, one X comes from father, which is genetically different, though it is X, and in female it is one X, though it is X, is genetically different from mother. So even if there are two X in female, they are of different type. So this is This is what you have to, notice here. Yes. Well, now meiosis 2. Now meiosis 2 stage is actually important for purpose of daughter cells to undergo a second meiotic division, which is just like, mitosis. That means there is no reduction in the chromosome number, but there is reduction in the genetic information. So we have to have a, what you call, much more distinct individual later after the fertilization. For that purpose, meiosis 2 takes place. So no additional replication occurs at the stage of meiosis 2. So this is a emphasis as far as the meiosis 1 and meiosis 2 is concerned. So in meiosis there is replication. So in meiosis 1 there is replication. In meiosis 2 there is no replication. This you have to keep in your mind constantly. Okay, you have to be quite familiar with these words, my dear students. Very important. Human anatomy begins with all this, so it's very important. It's quite basic. Well, now what happens next? Spermatogonia, plural. What are the stem cells? Those are the stem cells which give rise to spermatozoa. They are located in the periphery of each seminiferous tubule. Now, seminiferous tubules are present in the testis, and there are spermatogonia, and spermatogonia are the diploid cells. Okay, and these diploid cells are, going to become haploid. So developing spermatozoa move toward the central lumen of the seminiferous tubule as they undergo meiosis. So they are traveling, plus they are also dividing, and plus they are getting differentiated. So ultimately, when there is a second meiotic division, there is big differentiation, and in the resultant 4 cells, and they further develop into mature spermatozoa, and now they are called as haploid cells. So actual maturation and further capacitation means capacity to, what do you call, fertilize. It happens further, and that is called as spermiogenesis. So spermiogenesis is the last, process in this whole spermatogenesis. Actually, the last stage of the spermiogenesis gets completed at the time of fertilization. That means in the female genital tract. Okay, so the luckiest, the spermatozoa, will finally complete the total process of spermatogenesis. So you remember this word, spermiogenesis. Spermatogenesis means production of spermatozoa, and it is a continuous and prolific process. Continuous and prolific process means in males, so it is, you can say it is since birth, even though there is a puberty age. Prior to that, there are testes and there are primordial, spermatogonium in the testis. So it is a continuous and prolific process till the person die. So since birth to death, you can say. And in males, during each ejaculation, it contains 100 to 650 millions of spermatozoa. Okay, so in 2 ml to 5 ml of semen. So ml doesn't make a the difference, but the count makes a difference for the purpose of fertilization. We'll come to that point later on. This spermatogenesis occurs in the testis, and singular as well. I told you that TESTIS, don't forget this word. And it occurs in the seminiferous tubules. The size of this is 50 micrometer. Only up to 0.1 millimeter can be seen by naked eyes. So 50 micrometer is the size of your spermatozoa, and ovum is 30 times bigger than spermatozoa. So ovum, as compared to ovum, see how small this spermatozoa is. 30 times bigger than spermatozoa. Okay, well, now I'm showing you a image of male reproductive system. Now this becomes, very what do you call, simple to understand. Sometimes we have to teach, elder students like you, like students of first standard also. I find it very interesting to teach students, because even if you have read it 100 times, during the time of examination or especially during Viva, I have seen a lot of students make a mistake. Okay, here you can see a testis in which spermatozoa are manufactured in the seminiferous tubules within the testicle. So testicle is another word, plural is testicles. And then you can see the epididymis, coil of this epididymis here. And then you can see the vas difference, ductus difference, which is flowing into the abdomen or pelvic part of abdomen through the spermatic cord, and then coming to the what you call seminiferous uh, 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 seminal vesicles, and then prostate, so carrying seminal fluid and prostatic fluid, finally coming to the urethra, and through urethra there is ejaculation of the semen. Semen is of ultimate fluid combination of the spermatozoa, prostatic fluid, seminal fluid, and different constituents. Okay, and there is one image here, an image of spermatozoa. Main parts of spermatozoa are head, middle piece or mid piece, and elongated tail. Okay, this is a simple diagram, and of course in other parts of the penis and all that, even the study of testis anatomy that you can study at the time of regional anatomy of testis and penis, and seminal vesicle and prostate. Let us not waste time on that. So actually in the testis, what happens is, you can see that here you can see the primordial germ cell in the embryo. Here you can see the spermatogonium. Same thing you can see in the what you call cross section of testis here. So from this side to the lumen side, if you see, they are getting enlarged, developed. The second stage of primary spermatocyte, at the time prophase of meiosis 1 take place, and secondary spermatocyte to early spermatoid, there is meiosis 2. You can see meiosis 2 here, early spermatids, you can see spermatids here, and finally spermatozoa. Here you can see they are coming in the lumen of seminiferous tubules. So you can see the seminiferous tubule cross section at this level, and this is a testis along with the epididymis cross section. So this histology of testis is also important to understand the process of spermatogenesis. And here is a picture of structure of sperm, and the structure of sperm here, you can see that all other parts and the details of the structure of sperm, it can be a short note to you in examination. Here you can see the head of spermatozoa. Okay, now sperm is a short form used. Actually, you should not use this word. I suggest you to use spermatozoa word, because it's a proper word. Here you can see the head, and head has got an acrosomal cap. You can see acrosomal cap here. And it has got a nucleus, and it has got a centriole, and then there is a neck. So in the middle piece, you can see the mitochondrion. The mitochondrion of spermatozoa is in a spiral cell. Okay, and then there is an elongated tail with plasma membrane. So the structure of human spermatozoa, uh, everybody should know. There can be a short note on spermatozoa also. My dear students, now we have finished spermatogenesis. Now we'll go to oogenesis. Oogenesis and spermatogenesis are having quite similar process. The differences we'll just try to understand through this program. Now here the oogenesis is taking place in ovary, and they are plurally called as ova, and one is called as ovum. And finally the outcome is, though we have got 4 cells, only one becomes a ovum, what we call female gamete. Others are called as polar bodies because of division, mitosis, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Ultimately, there is a shading of 3 polar bodies in order to get more cytoplasm in one cell, and what you call subtraction of chromosomal number and genetic material by having 4 as outcome. Okay, so in oogenesis, there is a production of 4 ova by meiosis, and one oocyte is functional, others are non-functional. Okay, so the 3 cells are non-functional, and we commonly call them as polar bodies. They are known as polar bodies. Here you can see the image of female reproductive system, and here you can see ovary. Ovary is closely related to the fallopian tube or uterine tube, and you can see the fimea here, and you can see the ampulla of fallopian tube where the fertilization takes place. And these are the other parts of uterus which is required for embryology further. Okay. Oogenesis occurs in ovaries and in the fallopian tubes also, because some part when ovum travels towards fallopian tube, there is oogenesis still continued. After the telophase 1 and 2, the cytoplasm is not equally divided. So cytoplasm is going towards only one cell. Okay, and the stage is telophase 1. And one of the new cells gets the majority and it survives, whereas the other one becomes a polar body and gets broken down. So you can see one haploid cell, others are broken down here. Okay, unequal division of cytoplasm you can see at the meiotic second division. So telophase 1 and 2. So this is the difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Even though you have studied it again and again, the minute details you must have forgotten. So I am taking this once again to you. The development of ova means oogenesis, or you can say formation and development of ova means oogenesis. And here the ova gets mature, and these are also called as unfertilized egg cells. But actually, eggs, what we see in chicken, they are already embryo. They are already embryo. But here, in case of human beings, this ovum is not an embryo, because unless and until it is fertilized, it is not an embryo. So that is why you should not use this word, at least for human beings. But just to compare with the other animals, this word I am using. Oogenesis happens in the ovary, and oogonia means they are the stem cells that give rise to ova. They multiply and begin by meiosis and stops at prophase 1. At this phase, the cells are called as primary oocytes. They remain in this phase until the onset of puberty. Here you can see until the onset of puberty, they remain in the stage of primary oocytes. Then they are activated by hormones, by LH means luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, which are the hormones from anterior pituitary gland. They further develop into secondary oocytes. So beginning at puberty, by puberty it is around about 12 years of age in case of females, follicle stimulating hormone, which is secreted by the pituitary gland, it periodically stimulates a follicle to grow. That follicle means ovarian follicle or Graafian follicle, and induces its primary oocyte to complete meiosis 1 and start meiosis 2. Now meiosis then stops again. The secondary oocytes released during the ovulation does not continue meiosis right away, but penetration of the egg cell by spermatozoa triggers the completion of meiosis. So that is what I told you. In spermiogenesis, one step, which is final step, gets completed at the time of fertilization. Similarly, the secondary oocytes meiosis is stopped here. So the lucky ovum by spermatozoa, that only will complete this stage. So then the meiosis is completed. That means in case of all ova, the completion of meiosis is not possible, because human being, one female, that will give rise to maximum one child per year. That means only one ovum gets complete meiosis. You understand this? Luteinizing hormones stimulates the completion of meiosis, and this LH, luteinizing hormone, will stimulate the corpus luteum. That means after shedding of the ovum, what remains in the ovary is called as corpus luteum, and that corpus luteum, after the stimulation by luteinizing hormone, will produce progesterone, and this progesterone will maintain that pregnancy, because already the fertilization had taken place. So this is the difference. My dear students, you should understand the difference. Here you can see the ovary, section of ovary, and you can see the primary oocytes within the follicle, which is present since birth, and then it's a growing follicle by puberty, then mature follicle during puberty, you can see here, and there is a ovulation shown here when the Graafian follicle ruptures, secondary oocyte is released. Okay, that is called as ovulation. Follicle ruptures, releasing secondary oocyte. And after this rupture, if the secondary oocyte is penetrated by spermatozoa, then only meiosis is completed. And if meiosis is completed, that means the zygote has formed. Then the LH is released by pituitary gland, and that LH will come in the ovary to stimulate the corpus luteum, because now this follicle has developed into corpus luteum, and that will secrete progesterone for the maintenance of pregnancy. And after its function, corpus luteum degenerates. Okay, and even if there is no what you call pregnancy, then also it degenerates. That is called if no fertilization take place, and it turns into corpus albicans. So this is a procedure. So corpus luteum has to be maintained during pregnancy. So this becomes another gland in the ovary for the maintenance of pregnancy. And this oogenesis is shown just like spermatogenesis, oogonium getting divided into primary oocyte into secondary oocytes into ovum, and by this time you can see that polar bodies are shaded off from in this process, ultimately to get only one ovum. Now there is only one ovum secreted per cycle in females, what you call menstruation. So 28 days is a common figure, what you call regular figure in case of a menstrual cycle in a female. So for per menstrual cycle, there is release of only one ovum. What you call in a regular course. Sometimes two ova or multiple ova may release, and that will lead to multiple pregnancy. What you call multiple uh, uh, what you call uh, pregnancy in case of women, twins, and multiple births, and so on. We are not going to that part today. Just we will relate to our proper study, that is gametogenesis of oogenesis. So yeah, ultimately we have a ovum here as a production of oogenesis process, and you can see the structure of ovum here. I told you that it is 30 times bigger than a spermatozoon, and it has got a nucleus, nucleolus. The important thing you can notice here is zona pellucida. You can see the zona pellucida here. It doesn't allow the entry of second spermatozoa inside it. So there is only entry for one in a normal course, only entry for one spermatozoa. If two spermatozoa enter, then it is called as a monozygotic uh, multiple pregnancy, like twins. So that is not a normal course, but in normal course, only one spermatozoa is allowed, and that is the entry is banned by the zona pellucida. And on the outer line, you can see the follicle cells which are coming from the ovarian follicle along with the ovum, and this zona pellucida will disappear at the time of implantation in the uterus. That means after the fertilization, that process comes in your embryology further. Now, what is the major difference between uh, spermatogenesis and oogenesis? That there is unevenness in the mitotic division, that cytokinesis of oogenesis. So cytokinesis of oogenesis means cell division in oogenesis. There is unevenness. And what is that? In oogenesis, almost all the cytoplasm goes to one daughter cell, and that is secondary oocyte. And three polar bodies are formed which degenerate. Which degenerate means which are not required for the purpose of fertilization. So in spermatogenesis, four mature spermatozoa are formed by two meiotic divisions. Another difference, my dear students, is the cells that produce spermatozoa continue to divide by mitosis throughout the life in males. So throughout the life in males means, so since birth to death, I told you, the male are always, uh, uh, fertile during their after puberty age. That is also true. So 70 years, 80 years also, they are having capacity of procuring children. But this is not the case for women. They are born with primary oocytes, and at the time of puberty, there is further process of oogenesis continues, and at the age of menopause, this process of oogenesis stops. So it comes for, they say, when the menstruation stops in case of women around the age of 50 years. Okay. Other major difference is oogenesis has got long resting periods. That means Every month there is one ovum given by one menstrual cycle. That means till the second comes, there is a resting period of minimum 28 days or say 1 month. But spermatozoa are produced in an uninterrupted sequence, day and night. So every day and every month and every year. So it's a continuously happening in case of males, whereas it is not happening in female. There is a resting period. Now, these are the two key words which are of prime importance today, because we are going towards the remaining part of the gametogenesis today. Diploid cell having the full chromosome number, that is 46 in human beings. We are talking only about human beings. Every species or every living being has got a different number. For example, if you take onion, it has got 16 chromosomes. If you take elephant, it has got a 56 chromosomes. Likewise, haploid is a term used for having half the full chromosome number, that is 23. So our gametes are having 23 number of chromosomes, and our other non-gamete cells are having 46 chromosomes. But there has to be a nucleus in the cell. For example, in erythrocytes, RBCs, there are no nucleus, so there is no question of having DNA. So there is no question of having chromosomes there. Another word of prime importance is karyotype. I think that this part of gametogenesis is more related to genetics, but we have to consider this. These questions are also asked on karyotype and different genetic disorders also. A karyotype is a pictorial representation of a person's chromosome. Now you can see this karyotype. There are 22 pairs of autosomes. You can see each pair has got two chromosomes. So these chromosomes are autosomes. You can see here 22 number. And after 23rd number has got two sex chromosomes. And here you can see one is X and another is Y. That means this pictorial representation belongs to a male. So this is the example shown to you for male. And if you see here both the X, it becomes a female. And that means that each pair has to have two. So 23 plus 23 becomes 46 after the fertilization. Well, here you can see the X and Y chromosomes are known as the sex chromosomes, and they determine the person's gender. X is for female, XY is for male. That you all know this in the earlier part also. Here you can see the X and Y. So here you can see X is in two pairs. X is in two pairs. Y is absent. That means this becomes a karyotype of a female. Okay. It is a male who determines the baby's gender, as he can produce spermatozoa carrying both X chromosome and Y chromosome. So it is not the responsibility, but it is in the body of the male. So female are not responsible for the determination of sex of the offspring. You must be know that. You must be knowing that, and we doctors are have to be aware about this first. Now we'll see some autosomal disorders, and those are Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Patos syndrome, and in these three syndromes are all having trisomy. Trisomy means three, tri means three, somy means body. So three bodies at the level of 21st pair, 18th pair, and 13th pair, because there are 22 pairs of autosome. So at the level of 13 or the level of 18 or at the level of 21, if there are three pairs instead of two pairs, this becomes a trisomy. And these different scientists have discovered it, so they are named according to their surnames. So we'll try to see first here the Down syndrome karyotype. Okay, having extra autosome is a bad means abnormal. Here you can see the karyotype from a female with Down syndrome. If you come to the bottom of this image, here you can see X is in pair. There are two X chromosomes. That means this is female. Y is absent. But at the level of 21st pair of autosome, instead of two, there are three bodies here. There are no two bodies. There are third body senior. That means this becomes trisomy at the level of 21st pair. So having too many chromosomes or few chromosomes is all abnormal thing. But in Down syndrome, there is a trisomy at 21st pair of autosome, and the sex chromosome are normal. So if there are two X, means this is a female, and female is having one autosome extra here at the 21st pair. That means this is a female Down baby. And Down syndrome or Down syndrome is called because of the description of this disorder by John Down. He's one anatomist scientist who has discovered it first. And these babies look alike like this. These are all Down boys. Okay. Here you can see a group of Down children. There is excess autosome at 21st pair, and there is prenatal testing can be done. You can diagnose it is very easily these days. And result of chromosomal mutation, due to chromosomal mutation, this happens that third autosome comes in 21st pair. 1 in 900 people born with this condition all throughout the world. Likelihood of having a child with Down syndrome increases with advancing maternal age. The ladies who get married little the later age, they are having Down children more. And in these children, there is a mental retardation, there is upward slant to eyes, the small mouth, abnormal ear shape, and decreased muscle tone. Because these questions are also asked in first year paper 1. I have seen the Down syndrome was asked in paper some 5 years back. And for this, there is no cure because this is a genetic disorder. Now you can see other two trisomy, that is Edwards syndrome and Pato syndrome. In case of Edwards syndrome, at 18th pair there is trisomy. Okay, and in case of Pato, there is 13th pair has got trisomy. And in these children, there is cardiac abnormalities, very severe conditions they suffer since birth, and most affected infants, they die during first few weeks of life. So the viability of these children is very, very poor. But this can be diagnosed, this genetic condition can be diagnosed before birth, and they can be terminated as per the MTP Act. So these, what you call, genetic disorders should be known to each of us, because we are well aware with the Down syndrome. Edwards syndrome and Patos syndrome are little rare, but the problem is at the 18th and 13th autosomal pair. So this is called as autosomal disorders. Now last part is the sex chromosome disorders. These are also quite common. Like Turner syndrome is common and Klinefelter syndrome is common, but we should understand this Jacob syndrome and Fragile X syndrome. Here there is no problem with the autosomes. The problem here is with the sex chromosome. I'll come to Klinefelter syndrome. This Klinefelter syndrome was discovered by Harry Klinefelter. So Klinefelter is the surname of that scientist. It occurs when an individual receives 2 X chromosomes and 1 Y chromosome. Now you see at the bottom of this image karyotype, you can see that there are, instead of 2, there are 3 chromosomes, and this is a 23rd pair is for sex chromosome. So instead of 2X or 1X and 1Y, there are 2X and 1Y. Means when there is Y, means this is a male, but this is a male with a 1 extra X. That means this male looks more like female. That feminine look is more common in these boys, and the result is an infertile male. That is why they are not fertile. They cannot procure children with varying degree of femininity in their body. They look like ladies or girls. Now look at all these boys. These boys are all having Klinefelter syndrome. So they look very cute, because by looking at their faces, they are quite older boys. Even though they are older boys, they look like girls because they are having 1 X chromosome more in their body. And because of that, there is a problem in getting haploid number in these boys, so they become infertile. And here you can see one image that though the size of penis is normal, the testicles are very small. Okay, and it is called as 47 chromosomal number instead of 46. So it is 44 plus 2X plus 1Y. So 1X is extra here, you can see. It happens only in the males because Y is present. 1 in 1000 males live births can take place. We can see such kind of boys existing after Down syndrome. And there are mental disabilities also, like mild learning difficulties. They are taller than average with long lower limbs. They are, by height, they are tall. They show mild enlargement of breast. You can see the enlargement of breast here. Okay. And they are infertile because there is absence of spermatozoa. They can be treated with testosterone, which is a male hormone, in order to reduce the femininity. Now, next is the Jacob syndrome. The Jacob syndrome is opposite of Klinefelter syndrome. This Jacob syndrome is having 47 chromosomes, but there are two Y. So that means there is one extra Y here. So XYY syndrome is a rare chromosomal disorder that affects males. It is caused by the presence of an extra Y chromosome. Males normally have one X and one Y, but these individuals are having one Y extra. The syndrome have X and two Y chromosomes, and these affected individuals are very, very tall. And if you see the karyotype here at the bottom, there is one X and there are two Y. That means they are like super males, and super males, because of chromosomal disorder, they are also infertile. Now, this is about if there is absence of one chromosome. So that was about having more, and this is having less. So Turner syndrome is a common when there are less chromosome numbers. It occurs when the individual only gets one sex chromosome, and that is X from their mother. That means these are always going to be females. So from mother there is one X, but from father there is no another X. Okay, and there is a problem with having one less. You can see here, you can see the pair 23rd, there is only one body, there is no another body here, so there is no question of Y. So there is only one X, and so the number of chromosome is 45, and it is not 46 in Turner syndrome. The Turner syndrome was also discovered by Henry Turner. So Turner is a surname, just like Down is a surname. Okay, the result is an infertile female with a broad chest and poor breast, low set of ears, short stature, and poor hearing, amongst other things. You can see these girls. The Turner syndrome is only present in the females. You can see their neck, okay? And this is also quite common. So we get a 45 number of chromosomes in them, 44 autosomes plus one sex chromosome. There is absence of another sex chromosome X, and that is from father. So this is a low incidence. They look normal, but there is ovarian failure. And though the intelligence is normal, they have got a short stature. There's webbed neck, and through estrogen therapy, you can improve their status, but there is no cure as such. And the last one is Fragile X syndrome. The Fragile X syndrome is discovered by Julia Bell and the group, but actually these are all researchers, and they do it through paper presentation. The credit doesn't go to one sometime. Here the credit has not gone to one person, but it has gone to the X chromosome, which has become fragile. Fragile म्हणजे नाजूक. Okay, so this happens in cases of see boys who are having X is fragile, नाजूक आहे तो, आणि Y is normal. So though the number is 46 normal, 46 autosomes are normal, but one sex chromosome, that X is having gap. There is a gap in X. That means it is fragile. This X chromosome is fragile, and this most common inherited cause of mental retardation. These boys are having mental retardation. It happens in 1 in 2,000 males. So this happens only in the males, not in females. So there is a high forehead, there is a prominent jaw, and autism in this case of boys. And my dear students, if everything is normal, then there is a normal, what you call fertilization. This graphic is for fertilization. The fertilization takes place here in the fallopian tube, and then the zygote travels on 4 days. On 5th day, it is come in the uterus for implantation, and from there further growth of embryo starts. And here actually, after the gametogenesis, fertilization, the embryology begins. And embryology is not our today's topic, so I would like to end over here. But while ending this webinar today, let me tell you that there are two types of fertilization: internal fertilization and external fertilization. So you can see these animals in whom there is a internal fertilization, but chance of zygote survival is increased greatly. And in case of external fertilization, their chances of zygote survival decreases significantly. The human beings are having internal fertilization, so zygote survives very easily. And this zygote means fertilized ovum becoming an embryo as soon as the first cleavage occurs. Okay, and the cleavage is a series of division of zygote, and further process of embryology begins. So embryology is a part of your study for first year in paper 1, and we are not going to deal with that today. We'll do it some other day. And finally, the gametogenesis is going to give you a zygote and a baby, but baby is much bigger than a cell. You all know that. Remember, these adult to gametes to fertilization to zygote to embryo. And with this, my dear students, I would like to end my today's webinar over here. You can see this baby so happy that this webinar has got over. I think that you are also very happy that this webinar has ultimately finished. From my side, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll give you a few minutes. And this is my proud moment